Welcome to Settled on the Field. Bill, how's it going today?
Hey, Jeb. I'm doing pretty good. Welcome to the show. Another great episode. I'm excited for it. We're trying to get the word out on Vets to Refs and Settled on the Field, and we've got a big game coming up on Friday where they're going to settle on the field for the first time. So I'm happy.
I think Liz is settling in on a Christmas dinner, so she's going to be out tonight. But we do have a special guest, Michael D'Ambrosio. He's a high school teacher in New Jersey. He's a high school football umpire. He's mainly in the high school football official, mainly in the umpire position, but he's also been a white hat. He's a crew chief. And most importantly, he's the host of the Whistle Talk podcast. Michael, welcome to Settled on the Field.
Jeb, thank you very much. Bill, appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you guys very much.
So tell us a little bit about your officiating background and how the Whistle Talk podcast came about.
Sure. So actually, the officiating background started as a coach. I was 21 years old, and I had a neck injury playing college ball, a small Division III school here in New Jersey. And I talked to the coach about stepping away, and he said, well, do you want to coach next year? I was like, what do you mean? So I stepped in as a volunteer coach. I was the tight ends coach. I was a former offensive lineman, so I started off coaching tight ends, and I was the assistant special teams coordinator. And it was kind of weird because my roommates still at the time were the captains of the team, and I was one of their coaches. So I started coaching at a pretty young age and coached college football for 3 years. Got asked by our defensive coordinator, who ended up taking a high school job as a head coach, to come with him to be the offensive coordinator at a high school. So at 24 years old, I was calling plays and designing playbooks and stuff like that. So I was neck deep into it at that time, and also running the special teams at that. And then I just continued staying at the high school level. And I basically coached for about just over 20 years. I was coaching between the college and the high school level. And life started to happen for me. Had kids, teaching full-time still, an hour commute. So my last coaching stop had a little different philosophy than the head coach at the time. So I was like, it's kind of time to probably hang it up, be more involved with the family. And I was approached by who actually happens now to be my crew chief on the crew that I'm on full-time. He was the president of our local association. He's like, oh, I heard you're not coaching anymore. Why don't you referee? And I looked at him kind of cockeyed and said some words that I'm not going to say. I don't know what PG audience we have. I'm like, what are you, nuts? And you can fill in the blanks there. I'm like, I've been riding you guys for 20 plus years. There's no way in heck I want to put the stripes on. What are you, crazy? And he and I just sat there chatting. I came home. I was talking to my wife. I'm like, can you believe Al asked me if I wanted to referee? And she's like, well, why not? She's like, we go to a game and you're sitting there calling out penalties from the upper deck at Giant Stadium that people are like, what the heck? What did you see? I'm like, oh, well, the end, they got close. Like, I'm able to see it from upstairs. And she's like, you should do it. I'm like, I don't know. And then I sat there and I thought about it. And I'm like, you want to know something? Let's do it. And now I've been doing that. I'll be going into my 10th season as a high school football official. And it was one of the best moves that I made. I truly, truly enjoyed it. It definitely was a different perspective, but it's something that it's keeping me involved in the game that I love. And it's still keeping me involved with my family a lot more.
Yeah, so in New Jersey, do you do all different levels, or do you mainly just do Friday nights?
So I've predominantly just gotten to do the high school level. So I'll work the Monday afternoons, the Thursday afternoons, Fridays, and we do have some Saturday afternoon varsity games here in New Jersey. And we've actually had some Saturday night stuff because of the official shortage. They haven't had enough crews to sometimes work Friday night games. I started out working a lot of the youth games too. But now I got back into coaching because my son is just finished the 12U season, so I'm coaching his youth football team. So I gave up the officiating at the youth level to now coach still again, but I'm still working those other nights and basically your freshman JV and varsity games.
Perfect. So and then the Whistle Talk podcast, how'd that come about?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie. Before I actually started the podcast, I don't think I ever listened to one.
That's about like us.
Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of interesting. A gentleman that I teach with, I'm a health and phys ed teacher, so we're in close proximity. We got a small office. We're always talking about stuff, and he's a big podcast listener, and he's been saying it for years. He's like, you got something that people don't understand. He's sitting there and he's listening to me because of coaching for so many years. Coaches were sitting there giving me a call. Hey, Mike, I had this happen. Can you jump on Huddle and take a look at it and this, that, and the other thing? And so he's like, you should start this podcast because you're offering something that a lot of people might not know about. And again, I'm like, what are you nuts? I don't have time for that. But again, I sat around. It was the off season. We were doing here in New Jersey. We do some off season Zoom meetings throughout the entire state. So we have representatives from the state host different meetings. And I'm like, I started picking up a couple of pieces of equipment here and there. And I'm like, heck with it. I'm going to jump in head first, like I do with everything else in life. I'm just going to go for it and see where it goes. And I started off by interviewing a couple of other officials in my local association. I interviewed college coach who's been now a head coach for 20 plus years. He was my roommate who was the captain when I first started out coaching. So I kind of like eased my way into it with interviewing people that I knew already. And all of a sudden through Facebook, it started gaining traction. So I started a Facebook page called Whistle Talk. So inside the mind of a football official. And I now have over 1,600 followers, and I've been getting people from not only across the country, but around the world that are hitting me up. I've got an episode coming up in a couple of weeks with a female down in Mexico. I'm going to be interviewing somebody who's working out in Europe, who travels all over Europe. So it's been getting some good traction. So it's been a lot of fun, and I've gotten a chance to meet a lot of pretty awesome people throughout.
Yeah, that's outstanding. You're getting a lot of fellowship and viewership, and people are interested. What we've seen, and I think we talked a little bit before the show, is we've both been doing this since February, March, getting a couple podcasts out there. We've done it a couple times, but where we cross paths is this unique, ref community that seems to be intertwined and pretty tight. And you've been doing it for 10 years, so. What are your thoughts about just now that you've been there for 10 years, like for folks who haven't done it yet, what might you want to tell them?
Honestly, it was one of the best things that I could do in my life for my family and to stay involved in the sport that I love. Football has been a part of me since I was playing from 14 years old. I'm now 50. So I've been involved in football to some capacity in my life for the greater part of 30 years. And this gives me the opportunity to when I was coaching, I was commuting possibly an hour and 20 minutes in the middle of the summertime to go up for summer workouts. And then we'd have a game on a Friday night. We'd be back out watching film all day Saturday. Sunday, I'd be putting together a game plan, and I'd be missing a lot of the time. And for me, it still was ideal for me because I was a school teacher. My workday ended at, for me, 3 o'clock, now 2 o'clock. So to get onto the field to coach was rather easy. So the officiating part of it, now I started to meet people that were in different fields of work, that were working 9 to 5 jobs and still being able to get to the fields to work the game. So it got them still involved in the game too. And like you talked about, the community of people have been nothing but supportive, and seeing all the different Facebook groups online. And that's actually how somebody turned me on to what you guys have going with Vets to Refs. Was just a person reached out to me and they're like, Mike, are you familiar with this group in Midwest? And I'm like, no, but I love what you guys got going on. And so if you're asking me if I would recommend people getting involved in officiating, by all means, 1,000% yes, do it. Because A, we need good people. And B, it keeps us involved in the sport that we love, be it basketball, baseball, softball, football, whatever it is across the board. You're still involved in the game.
Yeah, that's a great response, Mike. And so I asked you, how can we get people interested? But it's like several sides of this. We would try to recruit them to come in, show them it's a positive, camaraderie and atmosphere. You can stay involved with sports. Then you mentioned the shortage of officials, and we could bring in 1,000 people a day, but if they're not going to stay, that seems to be maybe more of the problem, is getting them to stay to that 3 to 4 year mark where they could see the light. So, what are your thoughts on retention, or like what are ways that we could improve retention on those new officials that are excited to join?
Well, one of the big things, and I was listening to one of your recent episodes, having a mentor, having that mentorship. And for me, it was kind of natural being a coach. I was never shy to reach out to another coach, be it at a collegiate level. If they were running the same style of offense, I would shoot their offensive coordinator or their offensive line coach, because the head coach at the big schools, they want nothing to do with it unless you got a 5-star recruit. But the position coaches were always very amenable and working to help you out. So I felt like I always had a good mentor when it came to football. I had a great experience as a high school football player. My head coach that I had helped, between him and my father, were two of the most influential people that were involved in my late childhood and my teenage years. And then when I went away to college, my head coach was also my position coach, and he was the one that offered me the job. So I've had good mentors in my life, and I think that that's something that we need more of when it comes to officiating. We need that sounding board, because we've made mistakes. We've made bad calls. We've missed a call. It's something that happens, and you could easily get down on yourself, or you can easily allow a ruckus crowd to really get under your skin and that kind of turn you off. But if you have a sounding board, if you got somebody that you can go and talk to and hear different stories about, well, yeah, that's a bump in the road. That's something that we call life. That's something that we can get through. Just keep plugging along, and you're going to see the positives. I think that's a huge thing of keeping the retention, and that's one of my ultimate goals with having the podcast, is to try to A, recruit, and B, share stories about what we do and the enjoyment that we get.
Yeah, the mentor is a very big bridge to keep guys around. And with your podcast and having examples of what's going on with various, levels of play and different situations. So when you have the podcast and you're giving tips, it's a great place for an official to learn the game.
Thanks.
So
I appreciate that.
You mentioned you coach, and the coaches reach out to you every once in a while to look at their film from huddle. Is this a hold? There's a lot of whining that comes from coaches, which is understandable, because,
Yep.
At the different levels, there's different experience levels with officials, different styles. So if a coach was listening in on this, would you have something you would tell them on how to improve their team and their relationship with the officials?
Well, just understand that we are human, and there are times, and this is actually something that I brought to my association when I was a cadet, when I was going through the class, just talking to the other officials there. Opening the lines of communication, I find to be absolutely enormous between myself as an umpire and the players. I'm in the middle of the field. I get to deal with the players now and just communicating with them. And I used to be a wing, so I was on the sidelines dealing with the coaches. Having that communication level and having a coach come up to me and not berate me, but say, "Hey, Mike," or "Hey, Mr. Official, what did you see on that call?" Or, "Can you keep an eye out on number 75? He's hooking our kid and he's holding him." Things like that, just opening up the lines of communication. For me, and I think I kind of got lucky in this scenario, being the coach for so many years, I understood what I was looking for as a response. So I've dealt with officials on the sidelines because that's what I said. Well, that kind of turns you off, and now I'm going to ride you a little bit more than that, because give me a reason. Like, you called a hold, fantastic. I agree with your call. I agree to disagree, whatever it may be. But can you tell me what you saw so I can take 75 next time on the sidelines and say, "Hey, this is what the official's seeing. We got to fix that. We got to work on that so you don't get called for it again," instead of just a stubborn answer because I'm in charge. And it was the same thing as a coach, because that's what I called. No, that's not how the kids learn. And that's ultimately what the high school level is for the kids to learn the sport and hopefully continue playing the sport as they continue on through their lives.
Awesome. So we're not going to pause here for a second, but I'm going to kind of throw one at you here. We have a rule of the day we like to do. So do you have any, I saw on your podcast, you have a rules Jeopardy, which looked really cool. You get to see the whole episode, see a few of them.
Yeah,
Uh,
I like to quiz the coaches and stuff that I have on every once in a while, but that was a unique episode, and I'm not gonna lie, I gotta go full disclosure. Final Jeopardy is actually an NCAA rule, not a high school rule, and I goofed on that one. What? Yeah. Oh,
You got to be striving to the next level, so it's okay to check out
yes.
those NCAA rules every now and
well,
So what do you got for me?
well, no, so I'm coming at you because football has so many obscure rules. Do you have a rule you like to discuss in just a random conversation every once in a while?
So it's actually funny that you asked this. So I was saying before we started, my son had a basketball game tonight. My son's in middle school, had a basketball game, and two of his teammates and my son, my wife and I, we went and grabbed some pizza, and then we headed over to the varsity high school game, and all three of them play football together. So they're all teammates in multiple sports. So it's a great group of kids. And the one kid is our quarterback, and he's like, Coach Mike, we got to throw this play in there. Now, we run the jet sweep, but when we run our jet sweep, we're in shotgun and we do the little forward pop pass. So now that's a pass. Well, we had a play in high school, either this past year or last year, where it turned into the pop pass reverse to jet sweep, where he handed it back to another guy, flipped it back to the quarterback. So you had the reverse flea flicker, and then that quarterback threw a touchdown pass. Well, that's two forward passes. Because that pop pass is technically a pass, and most coaches are saying, no, that's just jet sweep. No, that's a pass. That's a forward pass. Why are you running it that way, coach? Because if he drops it, it's an incomplete pass.
Not a fumble.
Correct.
Right.
And it wasn't my crew that had that game, but the coach called me up and he's like, Mike, he goes, I'm not calling to complain. He's like, your guys got me and they got me good because they asked me that question. Coach, why do you run it that way? Because it's incomplete if we drop it. Okay, it's two forward passes. So yeah, that we just had that conversation tonight because he's like, oh, we should run it, and I flip him the jet sweep, and I'm like, we can't do that. It's an illegal forward pass. He's like, okay, I hand it off to him. I'm like, all right, now we can listen.
Now, if you hand the ball off forward, that's still a handoff, right?
Correct. As long as it's behind the line of scrimmage. So handing it off forward is completely fine. So then you can throw it at that point in time because you don't have a forward pass at that point in time. But once that ball is kind of in the air, it's now considered a forward pass. So, and we always make it a point, and this is something that I learned as an official when we were talking to the referees, we tell them, hey, when we run jet sweep, it's a pass. We're popping it in the air for that exact purpose because there are times, especially at the youth level, we only have three officials that they might not see that mesh point because of all the other keys that they got to focus on. So if they see the ball on the ground, we've been lucky. We've only had it incomplete one time, so we got lucky with it, and they called it incomplete right away. So, but yeah, that's a fun one that a lot of people, because that's the new age of how people are running the jet sweep, and they don't think about it. That's a pass. The one thing I don't like about it is that goes on the quarterback's passing stats, and that just seems cheap to me.
Yeah, that's a little cheap. They're always looking to pad those passing stats.
Yeah. Give me the
that
completion
was a great
record.
answer, though. We don't need to get into this one, but I always like that 1 point safety rule. To me, I think that just needs to be wiped off the books because it's never seen.
I still can't. To have the conversation with you, it would probably be about an hour and a half conversation to try to figure it all out and iron everything out, that 1 point safety. But yeah, it's definitely a nutty one.
Yeah. All right, so you had mentioned, your kids and youth sports and kids sports. So I want to change it up just a little bit, and we have, and we're going to continue to talk about like the shortage and the retention. That's always something we're both trying to hammer and figure this thing out. How do you think that like youth sports, where it was all education-based sports, but now it's travel ball and it's pay to play and there's not only more sports, but there's more opportunities out there for everybody. And how can we sustain the officials when, you should be at your Friday night game, but you're over here at a travel baseball game or, a travel football game, whatever new sport might be there. We're taxing people with trying to be in two places at the same time.
That's a fantastic question, and I wish I had a crystal ball to give you a true and honest answer with it. The one thing that I know that our local town has started to do, and this is baseball particularly, is they're getting the high school aged kids to come and umpire the games. So they're starting them out at a little bit of a younger age for the true little league type games, the 11-year-olds, the 10-year-olds, even the T-ball games and stuff like that. So they're trying to get some younger people involved in that stuff. But then when you got your travel games and your AAU games, some of them are paying more than your high school games. So it's tough, and it is stretching us very thin. So to be honest with you, I know on the football aspect, our association has been working hand in hand with the state of New Jersey, because we're now starting flag football. And flag football for the girls is a spring sport, and that's now there are some people giving pushback on it because it's going to draw some girls away from other spring sports like track and field and lacrosse and softball and things like that. But it's also drawing, I know, a number of officials that are also baseball umpire and softball umpires that they're trying to work it in and out. So one thing that they've talked about is we typically have lacrosse and those sports on like Tuesdays and Thursdays are the varsity games. So they're going to try to work with each other on the overall scheduling of the games to allow it. I'm only speaking from the high school level. Now, when you add in the outside levels, your travel sports and then the weekend tournaments and stuff like that, it's difficult, and it's a grind on a lot of people. But on the positive, it tends to pay a little bit better. I mean, that helps, but the burnout hurts. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other at times. So it's a tough one. I really don't have a true answer for you, Bill, on that one.
Yeah, that's a real difficult one, because with the growth of it, yeah, it pays more, but it's also, you're doing more games. So the burnout is real. I mean, I did baseball for a long, long time. And once travel started, I was like, okay, this is great. And then I did one weekend. I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to just stick with my high school games. The abuse you take isn't worth it. And, you can really wear your body out pretty quickly. So and I mean, unfortunately, that's kind of where you see a lot of officials, we get a bad name because they're using less qualified guys or guys that are getting overworked. And so somehow we got to bring the umbrella of all these different associations down so that we can, sustain not only the game, but the officials.
No, I agree.
I was going to say the other thing, like your local association involving, now you got girls flag football, right? Like, I think one of the things they're going to have to do is they're going to really have to start getting into the high schools and getting those kids certified. I know, like at our local high school, they get them in the reps program, but they need somehow to bridge the gap from high school and into college, where they're bringing officials into those classrooms to get them registered and signed up. So when they graduate high school, they're an official, and they've probably done some games, because that's where the next wave is going to come from. And you can really, you can pay your way through college officiating. So
no, 100%.
I'd like to see
that's
some
actually
way to sustain that.
One of the things that I'm working on trying to do right now is I'm reaching out to some of the local small colleges here in New Jersey, and I'm trying to get FaceTime with their teams to talk about it and to introduce them to the benefits of it. And I've even reached out to the intramural programs and the directors of the intramurals that are going on at the colleges to try to get them to say, hey, okay, you guys are all playing this sport at an intramural level because you truly enjoy the sport, but maybe you can go and officiate it now and get paid a little bit of money too, while still being involved in the sport that you like. It's one of the things that one of the angles that I'm trying to work right now, but it's still in its infancy. And so I'm getting a lot of, we'll work something out. And then I haven't been able to get back in touch with it, but now we got the holiday season rolling along. So I'm going to kind of wait till after the new year and start fresh from there again.
That'd be awesome, Mike. I remember I played ball at Ball State, and I remember we did the spring game, and the MAC officials came, and then they told us what to look for the year before the scrimmage, and then afterwards they came back to us and said, hey, think about being an official someday. We're gonna need you. And That we're talking 25 years ago. So I think those athletes who are into the sport, it only makes sense that at some point you're not going to be able to keep playing. You know, I went down the coaching path. You're not going to be able to coach forever either. You're not going to move up necessarily at all times, but there's always that chance to be the sports official no matter what sport you're into.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. I'm sorry to interrupt, and that's the one thing.
No, you're good.
I like I said before, I was lucky enough. I went to the education field, so my schedule allowed me to become a coach. Where that's a minority still with a work group with the workforce. A lot of people don't have that flexibility to be done with their day. So a lot of people think, oh, well, once my college career is over, I'm done. I'm going to go working my job and all this other stuff. But no, officiating definitely keeps you involved in the game, and it keeps your mind fresh, and it keeps you physically fit too. So it's definitely something that you're going to be out there moving around and running around instead of sometimes being stagnant and being that sideline coach or that sideline referee. You can be actually on the field and be that referee.
Nice. Yeah. So Jeb, you mentioned ref reps, and I just wanted, and Mike, maybe you or the listeners may not know, but what we do at Vets to Refs was we support you from the idea of you thinking about doing it until you get to the field or the court. And the way we do that is we got a partnership with Ref Reps and with Ref Masters. And so those two different ways to learn the game and get certified. And then also with Run and Ref for the physicality part of it, the physical fitness. Just want to give a shout out to those guys.
Yeah.
But
Mike, if you've never seen the Ref Masters, it's awesome. They have NFL, college officials, and they show a play and then they discuss it. And then there's within the app, there's different associations. And so you can, like, for example, for basketball, they'll show a play, whether it's a block or a charge, and they'll kind of let everybody discuss it. Then they have an NBA official that's James Williams comes on there, or Kane Fitzgerald, and they'll like, all right, that was a charge and here's why. And it's so cool to see all the different officials across the country and their different angles and everything. So I would highly recommend, if you haven't, checking out Ref Masters. They have a football program, baseball program now. It's a neat,
I've
neat
been
group.
looking into both of those programs. I've been trying to reach out. I've been playing phone tag with Kyle at Ref Reps. I know he's been busy because he's just had something kind of explode in the last couple of weeks with the advertising aspect of it. But Ref Masters, I haven't been able to get in touch with anybody. But running ref, Austin was just on one of my episodes recently. I love what he's got going on too, and I'm a big believer in that because being a former coach, I know how hard those kids are putting the time into being prepared for the game. I want to be physically fit and ready for the game to give them their best quality game that they are experienced in general that they can deal with. On top of the fact, I enjoy life, so if it can keep me healthier too, I'm all for it.
yeah, so you had Austin on, and I seen Don Beebe on your show. Who do you have coming up? If you can give us a sneak peek, you got anybody lined up?
Don Beebe is coming out. He'll be released tomorrow morning. And last night I just had an interview with Mike Goldman. Mike Goldman is the author. Let me see if I have the book. Yeah, right behind me here. Refs to Stripe, Friday Night Stripes. Mike is the author of this book, Friday Night Stripes. So I just had him on last night on an episode. I've been lucky enough to have on Mike Vandervelde. Mike has worked the last two Rose Bowls. He was the head referee, crew chief of the last two Rose Bowls.
Nice.
Steve Matarante worked one of the championship games with Alabama, Michigan. So I've been lucky enough to have on some big college guys. I've gotten in touch with some NFL people. I can't say any names because they are on a quiet period basically until after the Super Bowl. So I've had contact with them, and people have agreed that they'll come on and be guests, but I have to wait until after the Super Bowl until they're all allowed to speak. But yeah, I mean, I've gotten pretty lucky with some of the people that I've been introduced to, and it's been a lot of fun. And like I said, so Mike is going to be my next episode coming up. And like I said, I've got an interview that I'm going to be doing with a young lady down in Mexico, down in Guadalajara, Mexico. So American football is kind of blowing up internationally. And then another gentleman, He's based out of England, but he's all over. He's one of the board of directors for American football in Europe. So he's all over Europe, and he has agreed to be on the show, but he has to get the approval from their overall board in order to come on for social media purposes. So he's just waiting to get the approval for that. So I'm kind of looking forward to that one. But Jeb, I am looking to put together another Jeopardy game now that the season kind of concluded for the majority of the high schools at this point. There's maybe another week left, but there will be Jeopardy round 2 coming out pretty shortly. So hopefully right after the new year.
Nice.
That's
awesome.
Good luck and keep landing those great guests. Sounds
knock on
awesome.
wood. I've
paying attention to Whistle Talk.
Yeah, definitely. If you're out there, if you're interested, Whistle Talk, look for it on Spotify. It's all over. Listen, I got to give a shout out to what you guys do, because I've mentioned it before, but refs to reps. I'm saying that I said that backwards. I apologize. Vets to refs, the concept and what you guys are doing is just fantastic, because, well, you guys as former military, you understand what leadership qualities are, and you have that making, and you understand the teamwork aspect, and those are two of the biggest qualities that we're looking for in officials. So the fact that that's something that's already ingrained into the people that are coming out, and again, listening to one of your past episodes, the difficulty, the transition that a lot of military people have from retiring from the military and staying involved in something, the officiating path is a great way to go about it. One of my former guests I had on, actually, he was my co-host for the Jeopardy show, Daniel Chamberlain, is former military himself, and he went the military through coaching route. And so he kind of turned me on to that. There's that program too. And again, it's a fantastic thing. Daniel's a great human being and served the country, and now is looking to continue showing his leadership skills to the young men and women in his football teams.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Mike. I think I'm not sure if this is the one that he did, but Soldiers to Sidelines is a great operation. I think it's out of New Jersey. They deal with the Jets a lot. That's Harrison Bernstein. He's got a fantastic program. We're looking to emulate him with that, which instead of coaches, just with referees. And like you said, it's a great pathway, trying to make it readily available. We've got people in multiple states, and the word's getting out, and so hopefully it continues to spread.
Well, listen, if there's anything that I can do to help you guys out, by all means, I would love to. I would love to help you guys out the best that I can, because I'm just appreciative for all the men and women that have served the country. First and foremost, I'm great friends with a lot of ex-military police officers, first responders. I know a lot of people that you deal with. So I've got nothing but the utmost respect for everything that you've done in your lifetime. So if there's any way that I could help out in any capacity, please feel free to reach out to me.
Appreciate that, Mike. And like you said, the first responders are welcome as well. Spread the word for now. That'll be great. And I'm going to bring up our question that we ask all our guests, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get a good answer here. Jeb, I'm excited to hear this one. So
I am too.
And if you heard the podcast all the way to the end, you might know what's coming. But what is your favorite sporting event that you've ever been to? Or if you can't think of one off the top of your head, what might be that bucket list item that is right around the corner? And before you answer, I'm just going to say that this Friday, IU going to South Bend to play Notre Dame at home. As growing up in South Bend as a fan of Notre Dame, and got my money going to IU for my stepdaughter and my niece and nephew. It can't get any better than that. I'm hoping the snow and 0 degrees.
Hey,
that's fantastic.
As an IU grad and hometown Notre Dame, I'm excited to see it, and I get to sit next to you, Billy. So how exciting is that?
Boom.
That's fantastic stuff.
What's your greatest sports memory?
My greatest sports memory was going to the 1986 NFC Championship game, the New York Giants against the then Washington Redskins. Sat in the upper tier, but the reason I had so many memories of that, now I'm 50 years old, so I was 12 years old at the time. The year before, we had met a scalper who worked for a newspaper out of New York City. He gave his phone number to my father, and if he had any extra tickets, my father would call him and say, yeah, and he would charge us $5 more than face value. So there were times where he would only have one ticket, and my parents at 11 years old were letting me go up to Giant Stadium, which was about an hour away, with another family, a friend that had season tickets. I would drive up with them. I would meet this gentleman coming off the bus, coming from Staten Island, get the ticket, go inside and watch the Giants game, and then leave the stadium with 75,000 other people and go back and meet my family friend back at their car to drive home. So that year in 1986, I got to go to about 4 or 5 of the games, and I remember we didn't sit in those seats. We sat in the upper deck, and when the Giants won and were going to the Super Bowl, Jim Burt climbed the wall and climbed into the stands, and it was right where the seats would have been if I were to be with that gentleman at the time. But I loved the fact that I was there, but I was kicking myself. I wish I was down below, but what an awesome game it was. That's just one of the many memories that I have in sports. But now it's making memories with my kids, traveling the country with my kids' sports. My son's playing baseball around the country. My daughter's going. She won the national championship for her age bracket 2 years ago down in North Carolina. So those are now my new memories that I'm making in the sports and being involved with them again.
Well, Mike D, the referee, Whistle Talk Podcast, New Jersey high school football official. We appreciate your time, buddy, and all the best coaching your kids. And we look forward to the exciting things you have coming along.
Appreciate it, guys. And once again, if you guys have anybody in New Jersey that needs a contact, feel free to reach out, Mike D, the referee at gmail.com. And any listeners that are out there, I know our state association, we got to sit through a class, so I don't think they accept reps right now at the state level, but I could definitely get people in touch with anybody else through the state, the different area of New Jersey, because we have a couple different chapters. So if there's anybody out there from New Jersey or even the tri-state area, I can do my best and get you in touch with the people you may need to get in touch with. But like I said, gents, anything that I can do to help you guys out, I appreciate everything that you guys have done for me and for us in general.
All right, buddy. Well, thank you so
Mike
much.
D. Thanks for joining us.
Bill, we'll see you at
you.
Notre Dame Stadium Friday night.
See you soon. Keep dominating.
I'm talking about
good
it.
stuff,
Be about
guys.
it.